Gen X, you were sold the RSP promise, while our parents, they got the pensions. So the math, it's not quite mathing, and we are running out of runway. So here's what actually happened and what we can still do about it. So today, I guess we're going to be going over talking about the transition from the traditional baby boomer type retirement plan. Get a good job, work 35 years, and then you'll end up getting a pension, a nice stable income every month for the rest of your life, index for inflation, et cetera, et cetera. That's not even an option for us anymore. I think pensions nowadays are very, very rare. And in place of these pensions, these companies, because you're not going to stay at one company forever, so you're not even guaranteed to stay at one place long enough to build up a pension. So they went to these DC accounts or 401k type employer-sponsored accounts where throw money into these pools and invest in different index funds that are available to you. And those get carried on to different investments, and there's a bunch of different rules and stipulations and things you have to follow in accordance to what the government wants, because it's a government sponsored type account, right? So deferred tax for later when you're older, etc. So anyway, we're going to go through a bit of a PowerPoint presentation here again. I will just put that up like so. Slideshow. Come on. From the beginning. Okay. Gen X retirement reality check. Too young for Social Security, too old to start over. Okay, number one, the pension to 401k bait and switch. What boomers were taught, work 30 to 35 years for one employer, collect a guaranteed monthly pension for life. What happened? Starting in the 1980s, companies systematically dismantled defined benefits pensions and replaced them with 401k plans or DC accounts for the people in Canada. By 2023, only 15% of private sector workers had access to a traditional pension versus 35% in the early 1990s. So it really declined since the 80s, since when they started this. Because before that, the retirement model to have, for example, for the boomers was a pension. And they were expecting to work at one place for their entire life. Not taking into account that, companies close their doors or people get laid off or whatever. So it's a lie. 401ks were marketed as worker controlled and portability. In reality, they transferred all the risk from the employers to employees. You bear the investment risk, the longevity risk, and inflation risk. Most people lack the financial literacy to manage investments effectively, and even disciplined savers got hammered by market crashes. For example, 2000, 2008, and 2022, at critical moments in their accumulation phases. That being said, it did mention the lack of investment knowledge, but during those crashes, had you not sold, if you didn't panic sell in the crash, you would have bounced back and recovered and got ahead. But a lot of people, when they see it crashing like that, they sell to try and save. It's kind of what kind of mindset? Scarcity type mindset. They want to hold and protect what they have. But as everybody all knows now, it came back and then went back up past where it was before. So if they just held on, it would have been all good. Number two, the save 10 to 15% rule. The promise, put away 10 to 15% of your income consistently, and compound interest will make you a millionaire by 65. The reality is, this math assumes you started in your early 20s. Impossible when you're carrying $30,000 to $50,000 in student debt. That's if you decide to take on student debt. If you decide to go into the trades, there's going to be a lot less debt load. You're generally making money right off the rip, and you can effectively save 10 to 15% of your income. 7% average annual return, not accounting for secular stagnation periods. Uninterrupted employment. Here's the kicker. You're getting laid off and losing your jobs, and company shutting down, or maybe you're a seasonal worker, that sort of thing. Reality, layoffs, gig work, career changes. Wages that keep pace with productivity. They haven't. Since the 1970s, productivity rose 70%, while wages stagnated. For millennials and Gen Z, saving 10 to 15% is impossible, and housing costs consume 30 to 50% of income versus 10 or 15 to 20% for boomers at the same age. And healthcare premiums deduct thousands more before you even see a check. That's specifically for the US. In Canada, we don't have healthcare premiums, I don't think. Well, I'm in Alberta, so we don't. Maybe the other provinces have small premiums. But even that being said, like, we don't have those big premiums like they do in the States, but we pay a lot of taxes. So we kind of pay up front that way. Number 3, Social Security insolvency theater. The messaging. Social Security won't be there for you. The reality, this has been repeated since the 1980s to justify benefit cuts and privatization pushes. While the trust fund faces a projected shortfall for 2033, Social Security could pay 75 to 80% of scheduled benefits indefinitely, even with zero reforms. The bankruptcy framing convinced younger generations to write it off as per retirement pillar, while still paying 6.2% of every paycheck into it. Yeah, well, we don't have the Social Security like in the States, but we have Canada Pension Plan here in Canada, and it's the same thing. The same threat that it won't be there. We do pay, I can't remember, 5.5% of every check that goes to CPP, and they'll just manage it and adjust it. I think they started up CPP2, second CPP. So for the high earners, the high income earners, they get to pay that. The low income earners just pay the first one. But I mean, it's the same as Social Security, same idea. Number 4, the home equity retirement plan. The boomer model. Buy a house, pay it off by retirement, downsize, or reverse mortgage to fund your golden years. What happened? Housing prices detached from median income starting in 1990s. First-time home buyers now need 7 to 10 years longer to save for a down payment than boomers did. Those who bought in 2005, 2007, or 2021 to 2022 often have minimal equity or negative equity. The rent in retirement scenario, which boomers largely avoided, means paying market rates indefinitely. Number 5, the college ROI myth. The promise. Take on student debt. It's an investment that pays for itself. The math. For boomers, college costs $300 hours of minimum wage work per year. For millennials and Gen Z, it's 1,000 to 1,500 hours. Starting your career with negative net worth in your late 20s and early 30s destroys the compounding timeline that makes retirement savings work. So that goes back to the saving 10 to 15% of your income. And then you'll be like a millionaire by the time you're 65. If you're not starting in your 20s, like what they say you should do, but starting in your 30s, you've just knocked 10 years of growth that will compound throughout time. So they're already behind the 8 ball when they go to start for their retirement savings. That being said, like, you really got to be careful and think about, if you're going to go to university and post-secondary education, what you want to do. It can't be for some sort of course that's, for basket weaving. It's not going to pay anything. If you're just interested in it, get yourself a good paying trade, establish yourself, get your financial wealth going, and then do your university I'm interested type courses later on. Chances are later on in life, you're not going to be as interested in that topic as you think you are, which saved you so many years and so much money, tens of thousands of dollars. Number 6, the work longer solution. The advice: just work until 70 instead of 65. The problem: this assumes employers want 65-year-old workers and that health holds out. In reality, age discrimination begins in the 50s for many industries, and many manual labor careers often destroy bodies before 60. Meanwhile, life expectancy has stalled or declined for working class Americans and Canadians, meaning many pay into a system they won't live long enough to collect from. Yeah, so stalling your retirement from 65 to 70, I mean, those 5 years are very, very valuable at that point in life. Age discrimination, yeah, sure, it starts in the 50s. They're not going to want to, hire somebody who's older just to do the regular type job, unless you're a subject matter expert on something or specialized. At that point, you'd be consulting or contracting yourself out to solve specialized problems, not just doing the regular job that a person in their 20s and 30s could do. Because the guys in their 20s and 30s, they're pretty hungry, and they want to climb that corporate ladder, right? So by the time you're in your 50s, you're starting to slow down and think about the end of your career and what you're going to do with the rest of your life after your working career is finished. Okay, the bottom line: post-boomer generations were sold a DIY retirement model in an economy where DIY is increasingly impossible. The boomer model required employer loyalty, union bargaining power, affordable housing, and wage growth, all of which eroded just as the responsibility shifted entirely to the individual worker. The lie was pretending the game hadn't changed while removing every structural support that made the old system work. Meaning the old system does not work anymore. So we have to come up with a different way to move forward in the future. Move forward in the future with how generations past or post-boomer are gonna do it. We no longer have these guaranteed fixed income pensions coming in, which it might be beneficial, because then you're not relying on, how to say this, you're not really relying on that baseline check, and you're out there creating wealth for yourself, which I think that's what we're going to do as Generation X and the millennials and Gen Z moving forward. There's going to be other ways to create income, so you don't have to sell your time to a job. Especially with AI coming, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But where there's a will, there's a way, right? Anyway, that was the crux of today's episode. It's a little bit shorter one here. We're at 15 minutes. So we'll leave it at that. If you have any comments or suggestions or want to say anything, just drop a comment. Feel free to like and subscribe as well. And with that said, if you made it with me this far, I thank you. We'll talk to you later.